girls, so it's day 4 of our first week back. We're going to be refreshing our minds on inherited traits and instincts. Once again, make sure that you have a new journal page prepped so that way we can take notes and pause whenever it is I'm asking you to go ahead and answer a question on one of the slides. So I'm going to begin by making sure that you copy that objectives. Today we're going to be identifying inherited traits and instincts by how you acquire them. Alrighty, so let's go and take a look here at this picture here. Here we have 3 generations of family. There's the grandparents, their kids, and then their grandkids. If you can, go ahead and find a picture of your family, one that has your abuelo, abuela, tías, tíos, your cousins, and take a look at how everyone looks like, from their height to their face to their skin color. Go ahead and take the time in your journal to go ahead and write what are some characteristics that you and your family share, things that are similar about most of you and your family. Go ahead and pause the video and do that now. Make sure your list is as long as possible before beginning. Alright, before we go ahead and look at your list, first thing we need to talk about when it comes to inherited traits are the parents. Parents, male and female organism. And again, organism means plant or animal. Parent, pretty obvious, right, is the organism that is old enough to make new organisms, and those new organisms are called offspring. So that's what happens when the parents reproduce. They get an offspring, and the offspring can be a seed for plants, or it can be eggs, or it can also be babies, right? Those 3. Now, what things do you find the mother and daughter have in common? Things that the parent and the offspring share are things that are called inherited traits. So for example, things that the parents can give to their offspring, in this case the daughter, are they both have the same color eyes. They also have similar lip shape, mouth size, and teeth as well. And then if you look closely enough at their cheeks, they both have freckles. Where the daughter get it from? She got it from her mom. So those are 3 examples of inherited traits. Maybe a few of those were included in your list that you created just in the slide before this. Now, an inherited trait, make sure you want to get this down, pause it if you need to, is something physical, a body part or an organ that the parents pass on to their babies or their seeds in order to survive. Checkpoint. Where do inherited traits come from? Go ahead and pause the video, copy the question, and answer it. And then play when you're ready. Did you select either 1 parent or 2 offspring? So the correct answer here was, where do they come from? They come from their parents. I got it from my mama. I got it from my daddy. Next check. Where do inherited traits come from? 1, the offspring to parent, or from parent to offspring? So a little bit different, same question, just asked a little bit differently with different answers. Go ahead and pause the video to go ahead and choose your answer. So, one more time, if we're talking from this perspective of the kid, it comes from their parent. So it comes from parent to offspring, not the other way around. Now, genes. We didn't talk about it too much when we were in school and in class, but genes come from our DNA. They're kind of like a little map, a code that decides what the organism is going to look like. So DNA, genes, half of it, we get it from our dad, and then the other half, we get it from our mom. This together creates a code, and this code, when we're inside our mother's bellies, or if we're seeds, decides what parts of us or the animal is going to look like their mom, and what parts of the animal or us are going to look like our dad. Half from the mom, like we have here, half from the father, and then the other half comes from the mother. That's why you tend to look like you're both your mom and your dad. Now, let's take a look here. What are some other inherited traits that we see in this picture here? Go ahead and pause the video and make a list of some of the inherited traits that you see on this slide from these 5 siblings. Go ahead and pause now. Alright, so now that you have jotted down those inherited traits, let's see if some of the ones that you wrote are included here. So, if you put hair color, awesome job. Freckles, which were a little bit difficult to see here. Height, although you can't really tell height yet because they're not fully grown. You can't really tell if height was inherited until they're fully grown, and you can compare and see if they're similar heights as their parents. Now, earlobes here, if you remember, one of our activities when we were in school was to check out our earlobe. So here I have an attached earlobe. If I were to go to my mom and dad, which I did, I know that they have attached earlobes, so that is something that I inherited from them. Some of you might have detached earlobes. Go ahead and check to compare yours to your parents. Lips are also the shape of your lips. If you have small lips, you have big lips. If you have a wide mouth, that is also an example of inherited. In addition to eye color and skin color as well, if you didn't get that one. Now, what is an inherited trait Drake gets from his dad? So let's go ahead and take a look at Drake over here, and let's go and compare him next to his dad. Go ahead and pause the video and write down as many inherited traits you think Drake got from his dad. Alright, so now that you've played the video now, hopefully you got a few of these. Eye shape, ability to rap well. Which one of these is wrong? Well, it's kind of obvious, right? The ability to rap well is a learned behavior that Drake was able to learn. But if you look at that photo, you can see that pretty similar face. They have pretty similar, maybe lips, I would say. Eye shape, skin color are some of those inherited traits that Drake got. Let's try it again with another example. Go ahead and pause the video and write down what inherited trait did that baby plant, the baby plant on the far, get from its parents, the larger plant. So, animals aren't the only things that inherit traits. Plants do the same as well. There's male and female plants, and they pass on adaptations to their seeds in this case. So go ahead, take a moment, pause the video, and make a list of some of the inherited traits that you think these plants have. So hopefully that you included color, shape, height, smell, and petal shape and type of petals, number of petals that these flowers have as inherited traits. Body parts, structures are not the only things that animals and plants pass on. Genes don't just control the way something looks. Instincts are also passed on from parent to offspring. Instincts are behaviors that animals just are born knowing. What are some things you were born knowing how to do? Go ahead and take a moment to jot some of these down, your thoughts down. So hopefully you included some of these: emotions, hunger, thirst,
crying are some of the things that behaviors that you were born knowing how to do. No one had to teach you these. Now, so other animals have other varied instincts as well. Without instincts, you wouldn't be able to survive very long because these instincts are essential in order for an animal to survive. In this case, we have a possum here playing dead. Every instinct helps each and every organism survive, and each of them have its own different purpose. But most of the time it's for sustaining life, protecting itself, having energy, mobility, and generally to make sure that they're able to reproduce and survive on in the future. Let's go over some examples of instincts. So sustaining life process means helping it keep it alive, and a bear uses its great sense of smell in order to find food so that way it can eat and sustain life, stay alive. Another very big important one that they do is hibernation, and very important, especially to survive the winter months when there's very to little no food. How does the blowfish instinct help it survive? Well, it protects itself. It expands and makes itself super big to make sure that other predators don't get tempted into taking a bite because it's so big and spiky. Others include having energy. No one teaches puppies how to find its way to get its mother's milk. And in this case, this instinct, this behavior helps it grow and continue having energy to do so. Others, flying away when an animal approaches, or just jumping when you get scared, like I did when we did in class, is an example of an instinct as well. How does its peacock ensure its survival? Well, it has mating dances. No one teaches it how to do these dances, but very important when it's trying to find a mate.